Hello, today we are in the informational text packet and we're going to be looking at essential question. Number 1, how do readers know what to believe? Number 4, what's informational text really about? And number 5, how does interaction with text provoke thinking and response? And as we answer these questions, we're going to be participating in close read on Exploring the Ocean from yesterday. And we're going to be close reading this for 2 days, and then we're going to follow the 2 days of close reading with a open book quiz on Thursday on the text. So as you read this text 3 times, for the first phase, we're going to look at for what the text says. As you read this section for what the text says, we're in phase 1, we're actually going to be looking at what the text says in regards to the author's purpose of the text. So phase 1, what's the purpose of this essay? Cite text evidence to support your response. Normally we summarize in the first phase, but we've been doing such an excellent job in summarizing, and since we just read this piece yesterday as a whole, I figure we'll take a break from that today and we will look at author's purpose and how that relates to what the text is about. So as you do this first phase, I am asking for you to cite text evidence to support your response. And you need to begin your answer with one of the following. The author's purpose is to either argue, inform, and explain, or compare. Make sure that you pick the correct response for this particular phase. Now this phase connects to the following learning target. When you read for author's purpose, we are looking at learning target number 8, to determine the author's purpose in a text, to decide the author's reason, goal, or intention for writing the text. Within this particular piece, there's a clear, specific answer to this. There isn't just one right or wrong. This actually ties in to what you close read last week, and I do want to go over this question because I was quite surprised at how many people did not get it correct. So in question 1 in this, it asks you to make an inference based on the background in this paragraph. Create an inference with the point of view based on the opening paragraph. What's the purpose of the essay? So here's the opening paragraph of the essay. It says, "Why explore?" Asked why he kept trying to climb Everest, English mountaineer George Mallory repeatedly replied, "Because it was there." Exploration is intrinsic to our nature. It's the contest between man and nature mixed with a primal desire to conquer. It fuels curiosity, inspiration, and creativity. The human spirit seeks to discover the unknown, and in the process, explore the physical and psychological potential of human endurance. And I asked, what is the purpose of this essay? And as we look at this opening paragraph, and as based on the background section for the previous paragraph, when it talks about Dr. Joan Varenkos studied the harmful effects of weightlessness on astronauts, it also mentions how after forced budget cuts, they were asked to discontinue that shuttle program, although it was debated whether they should, in fact, discontinue that program. This opening paragraph gives a lot of clues as to why we should explore. It says the human spirit seeks to discover the unknown and explore the natural world and see how far humans can endure things. So we're saying that we seek to explore. It means that the chances of this piece being the purpose to argue that we should in fact explore are highly likely. So think about what we're reading today and decide, what do you think the author's purpose is in this text called Exploring the Ocean? What is their purpose for writing it? And what is an evidence within here that actually helps you come to the conclusion that it could possibly be their purpose in writing it? As we go into the phase 2 of the reading, which is for how the text says it, we're going to look at how the text uses perspective or point of view within the piece. So I want you to reread the text and think about creating an inference for the perspective of Philippe Cousteau, the author. What is his perspective within this essay based on what I've given you in this given section? This connects in our learning target packet to learning target number 7, to determine the author's perspective or point of view in the text. What is that position or outlook of this author? Perspective is a key part of point of view. This has nothing to do with first, second, or third person. This is about their viewpoint, the way that they think about this, in this case, the topic of exploring the ocean. Based on this excerpt, how might this individual think about the topic of exploring the ocean? As we look at this phase and you develop an answer for this question, I'm going to have you begin it with one of the following. Make sure that you begin it with the author hopes, believes, thinks, or wishes, because we're looking at the author's perspective, not whether this is written in first, second, or third person point of view, but their perspective, their reasoning behind their viewpoint on the piece. This is another one that we just couldn't get right in our close read analysis last week. In this background section, we see that it talks about NASA launched astronauts into a program and that budget cuts forced the discontinuation of the shuttle program. It also discusses that scientists and economics, people that studied economics, debated whether NASA should carry out space travel in the future. This says that this individual who wrote this is the director of NASA's Life Sciences Division. Yes, she studied the harmful effects of light weightlessness on astronauts, but she's a doctor who works for NASA. A lot of you answered the question about creating an inference to the point of view with saying whether it was written in first, second, or third person, but that's not perspective. I want you to think about a doctor from NASA who studied astronauts, who lost her job when this program was shut down in 2011. What might be her perspective about whether we should, in fact, fund NASA and keep NASA in the future? And an individual who works for NASA obviously probably has a perspective that we should, in fact, explore space because she wants to keep her job. That's her perspective. And in this piece today, I want you to think about that as well. We're reading a piece right here, this little excerpt about exploring the ocean. In this excerpt, you hear some background specifically about the perspective of Philippe Cousteau. Based on this section, I want you to create an inference for Philippe Cousteau's point of view, his perspective. Make sure you think about how that connects to what his argumentative essay is about. In the final phase of this piece, we're going to read for why the text matters. As we read for why the text matters, we're looking at learning target number 13. In arguments, we always need to decide whether things are relevant as well as whether things are sufficient. And in this case, we're looking at relevancy to assess whether the evidence given in the text is in fact relevant to the argument. I'm going to give you a piece of evidence, and you need to decide whether it's relevant. Remember, relevant means it connects clearly to the claim or to the central idea of the text. It's appropriate, and that it proves or supports their claim as well. The specific piece of evidence that I give you for this is as follows. I want you to look at the idea that he says, after all, my grandfather co-invented the modern scuba system, and the undersea world of Jacques Cousteau introduced generations to the wonders of the ocean. As you read the text that third time, think about this particular quote in the context of the entire text above. Is this piece of evidence relevant to the argument that people should explore the ocean? Why or why not? This third phase does not require you to cite specific text evidence. However, the other two phases, phase 1 and phase 2, in fact, do. So as we do that, we're looking at learning target number 1, to cite text evidence in the form of direct quotes that we're able to lead with our opening statement, provide with quotation marks, and then explain and give a full sentence analysis for how it connects to our opening claim. So make sure that you're able to successfully do that in this third phase, or in the first phase and the second phase. So go ahead and get working on this close read, which is a very small section from the excerpt written by Philippe Cousteau on exploring the ocean.